Hello, crypto world. Welcome to the Chart Historian. My name is Justin, and on this channel, I delve deep into crypto charts, exploring chart structures, fractals, and patterns. So, today, we're looking at the XRP chart, and as you can see, XRP has been on the move. What I'd like to do in this video is compare this structure here, this whole structure right here, to previous historical events that this structure or this time frame in the XRP chart took place, and we can kind of get a rough idea of what we are headed into and what might be taking place right now. So I'm going to zoom out and show you the bigger picture here for a second. So here we are on a day candle. The previous one was an hour candle, so it was a much more zoomed in view of what is taking place on the XRP chart. So as you can see, I have things broken up here. Now, when XRP declines, I'm talking about a major decline, like a bear market decline, it has a structure that it repeats every single time. So I've broken the chart up into these different repetitive structures that take place. And what I mean by repetitive, so XRP comes up and makes an initial peak here. It crashes down or declines, and it comes back up in a retrace. This retrace is the first peak that takes place, and that's called A. It crashes down, comes back up again, B, C, D, E, and Fs. Now, there are unique characteristics to these fractals, and I'd like to quickly touch on those. Sometimes it's important to know that A is not there, so the initial peak comes down and it goes into B. So B and C, there are unique characteristics about them, but for the most part, they're simple peaks. They do have two parts to it, like right here, C. It declines into D, but right before it hits D, it moves back up and does this kind of bull type feature. It declines again, moves back up into E and does another bull type feature, and then it declines into F. Let's zoom in a little bit. F moves up, and then it forms this one peak, another little peak here, comes crashing down, and it has this peak right here. And then after that, it does a swoop. At the end of that swoop is when the capitulation is complete, and XRP moves into a new phase, and that is what we are doing right now. So this is a momentous thing because we have been in a decline since, well, the peak took place in April 2021. So it's been a long, long time that we have been in this declining phase. Now, what is important about these fractals is they're repetitive, but they're repeating the original fractal that took place on the XRP chart. And that the original bull market and decline took place in 2013, and it finished in 2014. Let's quickly go back there, and you can kind of get a feel for what I'm talking about. Okay, so here is the initial peak that took place at the very beginning of well, not the very beginning's right here, but the very first bull run. This is the peak of that bull run, and here is the decline. So these fractals, now this is on a day chart, these fractals are important because they're in essence the first generation of these fractals, and everything else moving forward is an iteration or a descendant, a photocopy of these fractals. Now, when a fractal repeats, it's never identical, but the overall structure should be similar. It should be similar to what these are. So, for instance, I told you that D moved up, and it did that bull, so we see that here, and then it declines into E. E moves up, it does a bull, declines into F, and then if you take, so here is C, for instance. Here you have those two little parts to C. If you take this fractal and you copy and paste it, for instance, on the current capitulation fractal F, let's do that, and you'll kind of get a feel for how they are similar. Okay, so here is the original one, this fractal, the first time it ever played out. And as you can see how today's capitulation fractal or fractal F is different, but it's similar. It has that initial move up, this little peak right here, it drops and does this peak. In fact, you could probably move this over like this, and that's probably a little better representation of that fractal, which brings up another interesting point. Timing is different every time it plays out as well, and then it does that swoop. So this is an important thing right here, folks. Normally, like I pointed out in my previous video, the lion's share of history, this drops down. However, we do have one instance where price in this capitulation fractal did not go below here. So when an anomaly happens like this, it's always important to kind of remember it, record it, because it could present itself again later on down the line. Let's go to the time that it did this, and I want to compare the F fractal right here, this capitulation fractal, as well as this, because I find a similarity to what is forming here to what formed back on that capitulation fractal that I'm speaking to you about. So let's go there. Okay, so this is the decline and the capitulation fractal right here. This took place in 2017. This happened actually on a very small time frame for the most part. So to really analyze it, we're going to have to go into a much smaller time frame. Instead of a day candle, we'll go into an hour candle. But before we do that, just let me point out, this is the phase that we are going into. It is a range-bound sideways time. It is not a bull run, but it does, as you can see, lead into a bull run. So folks, just as XRP has bull runs, and just as XRP has declines, XRP has these sideways range-bound times that exist in between declines and bull runs. So that is the phase we're going into. As you can see, I've broken them down into 3 different fractals and subparts of each fractal. And the final one I have in red here, I call this spring. And the only reason is I compare it to the seasons. If this was your summer moving up, your decline would be fall, this part would be kind of a winter, and then this is when things start coming to life. It is spring, and it goes back into summer. So let's go into an hour candle and examine this F fractal and this move up, just so we can get a better feel for what is currently taking place. So I'm over here on CoinTrader Pro. This allows me to go far back in time and use a smaller time frame. So I'm on an hour candle. So here you have your initial peak. This is from the peak in 2017. It declined. And then here you have your, this one does not have an A. This is a good illustration of there not being an A. So it goes into B, it declines, goes into C. Here you have those 2 parts. The first part actually came up higher than the second part, which brings up another interesting little fact about fractals. They're not always geometrically the same, in the sense that this little peak, sometimes a push-up can go higher than it did previously, and sometimes it can go higher than, in this case, it went higher than that one. That happens sometimes with fractals. But the overall rough structure is there. There's 2 waves, there's 2 pushes up, and then it declines. D, you have that push up, and it does that bull right here. It happened very small, very quickly. It declines. E, it moves back up, and then it does that bull right here, and then it declines into F. So F, let's examine F real quick. So F this is actually, it's so interesting. When I first saw this, I just like, what in the world? But so here it moves up, it declines. Here is your that in between that little peak that I was telling you about, and here's that swoop. So that normally this goes way lower, and here you have the little tiny push up right here on that decline. So let's grab this fractal real quick and compare it to today's capitulation fractal or F pattern. And I just want to show you that there is that similarity. Okay, folks, so I copied and pasted that fractal onto today's chart, and this is on a day candle, or 12 hours, sorry, but this is from a 1 hour time frame. So it's a little pixelated. But you can see the basic gist that it follows the basic structure where you have the decline. Here is your push up there. This one is over here, and then this peak right here is this one right here. So it actually should be moved over like this in this case. Again, timing plays out uniquely every single time. And then as you can see here, for instance, you have, so this I would say is this right here after this, which is this. And then you have 1, 2, 3, almost like a head and shoulders that didn't fully complete. So here you have that 1, 2, 3, and then it comes down to that little part right there. So it's, again, unique, different, but the overall structure is similar as well. So let's move back to the one where this one came from and examine this part, because I believe that this structure right here, back when this one formed, is structurally similar to what is happening on this one. Okay, folks, so as you can see, it moves up and it does this kind of steep decline right here on this little correction on the way up before it comes eventually to its peak. That peak has two parts, as I've previously spoken of in my previous video. But this idea of this correction here is not, this is not the first time it's played out. Let's go back to the original time, the very first time it played out, the original source fractal, and examine it. Okay, folks, this is on a day candle, but as you can see, let's zoom in a little more. It does have this little kind of correction right there before fully moving up, and then there's the two parts of the peak of A right there. And if we move forward a little bit in time, you'll see that it's a little more pronounced the second time it plays out right here. So it moves up, it has that kind of correction right there, and then it moves up, and the peak is made up by two parts, this part and this part. So now let's move back to that 1 hour chart and examine this move up that took place in 2017. So this right here, by the way, was in 2015. This decline took place in 2015 as well, whereas the first one took place in 2013 and 14. Okay, so here we are back in the 2017 one. Has that sharp decline, moves up, has the two parts to its peak. Now let's superimpose this on today's chart and see what it looks like. Okay, folks, so I superimposed it and I stretched it to where it roughly matches the time and scale of this chart right here. Now, this brings up another important point. So when you do that kind of stuff, you cannot use a fractal as a measurement of how high or how low something can go. Well, yes, it matches here. That doesn't mean that every part is going to be the same percentage of rise, and all. It can be different. What we're comparing, and this is important, it's the structure of it. So structurally, you see how it has that move up, it pulls down. Now this one is a little more pixelated because it happened much faster, this fractal right here, whereas today we have much more definition in it. So if this is a roadmap or a rough idea of what we should expect, we should have a consolidation right about where we are having one right now, which is right here. So this is what leads me to believe that this is a potential. I'm not going to be dogmatic about this because this is kind of not fully developed yet, and it could change into one of the other ones that, or another one could end up, another move up like this that took place in its past could end up being a closer match. But so far, this is looking like a potential match to what is taking place. And it's also interesting that it is from that same capitulation fractal back in 2017 that matches to today's capitulation fractal. So folks, here we are back at today's chart with the original first time capitulation fractal superimposed on today's chart. And as you can see, we have completed the decline. that is an important thing, folks. We have completed, just let that sink in, we have completed the XRP decline, and now we are moving into a new phase. So if history is any guide, we will see this plays out, but eventually it moves up to a peak, and I'm not sure exactly where that peak is. If we were to throw some Fibonacci retracements on here, I did this on my previous video. You can watch that video here. Price moved up, right? So I'm comparing them all. I compare it to this place on in the capitulation point on all of them. Historically, I go through and show you how high this move up has historically been, and it can go quite high on some of them. My guess is it could be somewhere around here. That would be the 702 level right here. Could be the lowest it's ever been was the 0.618, which is at this level right here. We'll see. So my guess is it could be somewhere around in here. Some have gone to the 1 level. So time will tell. Well, folks, I hope you found value in this. I hope you found it interesting. You know, if you do find this type of analysis interesting, where I deep dive into the XRP chart structure and examine fractals and patterns, you should hit that subscribe button, because you'll be notified when I put out new content. And one important thing, I am not a financial advisor, so none of this that I'm presenting here should be construed or used as financial or investment advice. I am not, that is beyond my realm. I'm just a guy that looks at charts. If you did find this helpful, please hit that thumbs up button. It means a lot to me. I'm so glad you caught this video. I hope you catch my next one. Have a great day, and bye for now.